Hey everyone, it's Kai, and it's been exactly 10 days since the first booster pack for overDress got released. And, you know, we played the format for over 2 weekends, so maybe it's a good time to kind of look back on our testing, talk about what we discovered, and what we initially thought was like good, maybe it's not so good, but maybe some things are really amazing. Just talk about the format in general, all the decks, and, you know, some of the cool stuff, and pretty much it, right? It's, you know, a bit of a catch-up, you know? And we'll just go through all the decks one by one and talk about one thing about them. And we'll start off with Nirvana, right? So the first start deck of the lot. Nirvana as a deck itself, you know, it's very simple. Building it is not very flexible, you know, because a lot of the cards it's just like an auto build deck. You just put them in. You kind of have to put them in because there's not that many choices, and that's it. So overall, the deck is just kind of, you know, very easy to build. In terms of playing, that's where maybe you have to do some matchup choices, but overall, that also is not very hard. The one thing is that the deck itself can be kind of counterblast denied, or your opponent can dictate the flow of the game a bit more. So in terms of that, maybe if you don't like that kind of playstyle, then sure, it's not great. But, you know, if you're a very aggressive player, you don't want to think too much, then Nirvana is fine. Now, in terms of flex spots for the deck, you basically choose between like the 15k order that you might want to play. Some people don't want to play it. They want to play more aggressively because that's how the deck is currently played. So they can probably cut that and play something else. But you really don't have much choices, right? You don't really have much choices. So that's pretty much it. Bruce. All right, let's talk about Bruce. So interestingly, we're talking about how you can soul charge a lot and then use like Gungnir to like kind of soul blast 3 and draw a card. But if you do that a lot, you'll find out that you reach deck out quite often, especially if the game goes a bit long, right? If both of you heal maybe twice, then yeah, you can reach that deck out state, and you know, you might lose because of that. Now, there is actually an amazing card, and you might be surprised, and it's Brody. Now, what does he do is just when he's put on the Guardian Circle, you can counterblast when it gets 5k shield, right? So that's not a crazy effect, it's a very boring effect, right? Why is he so good? Well, he's basically a 10k shield, which is nice. Counterblast 1 in this deck, you don't really use counterblast much at all, so you can just spam it. In terms of the 5k extra shield, it is kind of another card, right? So, you know, you have to guard with 2 cards in overdress in D format in order to reach 10k, so Brody can just kind of count as 2 cards without you having to draw extra cards. So it's kind of harder for you to reach that deck out state. The most important thing though is that you can also commit him onto the field to bash with him and then intercept him, and for some reason, right, you can still use his effect to gain 5k shield. Now you might say, well, when you intercept, it's moving the card, and I say you're right, you know, you're right, but go look at the Q&A. In Japan, they do say you can do it, so you know, it's a Bushi says thing. So yeah, you can do it. That's why he's so good. So you can do everything with it. You can commit with him, put him down, intercept, woo! Counterblast 1, 10k shield. Nice, 10k shields are the best. Bastion. All right, not much to say about Bastion, except, you know, Alden is really good. Bastion kind of just, again, you plop in all your grade 3s and you hope for the best. Japan has a very draw-focused grade 3 build. They run no memes though. Not memes, is it memes? It's just the witch, right? The thick witch. They don't run the witch, but they just run the angel, which is nice. They run the draw 2 order, and they run 4 facades. Now, there's not much to say about it, except I've noticed some people when they play Alden, I mean, I've done this as well, is that Alden's plus 5k effect procs twice if you restand it. So the first time you attack, you get 5k. The second time you attack, you get 5k more. So it hits bigger. So if you want to hit numbers, don't forget Alden's skill, right? Some people think it just only procs once. No, it's an auto effect, and it activates whenever you attack. So restand that guy, hit it twice, double dip that value, right? So that's basically it. Magnolia. So I'm not convinced. I'm still not convinced Magnolia is super high tier, but for some reason Japan thinks it's quite high. What can I say about Magnolia is that I think the Zolga grade 1 is actually good, right? Is actually a good addition to the deck rather than just running a pure build. And what this does, it lets you dig 1 card more, right? You just run the grade 1, you soul blast 1, you draw 2, and then you discard 2. That's it. But you could draw into a Persona Blast, right? And then when you draw the Persona Blast, not Persona Blast, you could draw the Persona Ride, and then you can kind of proc off like that. And who cares about just losing 1 card? You can still run the Lattice grade 2, and that can give you like a plus when you ride Magnolia, and you know, you Soul Blast 1. But you know, you're not gonna have much Soul, but who cares about Soul, right? You might need to change the deck up a bit, like run less Lattice, run less of the grade 2 that can call a free card. Well, you can still run like 1, but you might need to change the deck a bit. But I think the Zolga grade 1 is fine. I've heard some people run the Zolga grade 2 as well. I don't see a point. I mean, you can salvage an order, and I do think running Ghost Chase is important, Magnolia. It's like a good addition, so you know, you can, you can kind of maybe draw 2 and discard that. But overall, even if you don't discard an order, I think the grade 1 is just a great addition. You're gonna find that one thing with Stoichea is that this Mantis boy just carries the entire nation on its back. You know, if you play Magnolia, this helps you hit numbers. If you play Zolga, it's even better because you can keep on rezzing him, and you know, getting extra 5k to fix your column. So you know, Mantis gets a spot all by himself. He's just that good. And lastly, with Prison, I think we're talking with a different fight a bit. Is that, you know, this old man is very important because he can hit 15k, and against like good players who play around your stuff and don't let you get 3 prison cards. Right now, you kind of don't have a way to kind of get more cards into your prison until Festival Collection. So you kind of have to run stuff that gets power so you can just kind of just beat down your opponent and hope for the best, right? Now, if you're in a metagame where everyone is playing Stoichea decks, like especially Magnolia, but you know, Zolga also doesn't really have any good outs to prison, you might not want, you don't need to run this. You can just prison all this stuff and you feel really good. But you know, even so, you know, 15k is a good number to hit. You can be aggressive, and that's good. So I think the old man you definitely have to include. Now moving on to the booster pack, the ride lines introduced in the booster pack, we have Eugene. Okay, Eugene, I don't know, like, it's not very good, right? What good techs have I thought about for Eugene? Well, just get a trash can and then, you know, put Eugene in there. You know, it's kind of just how it is, right? Let's move him in. Move the boy in there. Here we go. There we go. That's it. It's sad. It's sad. First set Eugene is super clunky. The value it gets is non-existent. I don't think it's not worth it. It's a slot machine kind of deck, right? So yeah, it desperately needs some support, and hopefully they give it more. Unfortunately, from the Festival Collection reveals, it's just not very good as well. So maybe you're waiting for the next set, the set 2. Like, that's it. There's not really any good way to say it. Just play Nirvana if you like Dragon Empire. So yeah, that's bad times, but moving on to a better deck, we have Barrow Magnus. Now, I think right now with Barrow Magnus, the West loves Barrow Magnus. Japan kind of doesn't really think Barrow Magnus is amazing, so it's kind of weird. I think it's fine. Don't be too YOLO. I think if you be too YOLO with Barrow Magnus, you either win really hard or you just die really hard. Because remember, although you do get 5 attacks, you do have to sacrifice a lot to get 15 soul very quickly. And then, you know, that stuff just goes into your soul and you just don't have a hand. And yeah, I think it's okay. Just, you can kind of play it good enough, you know, just get the crit as soon as possible. And then from then on, the next turn, you can hit 15. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine deck, but we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. For Hexerob, you know, if you build Hexerob, you'll find out that this is the best grade 2 in Keta Sanctuary, because there's literally no other grade 2s that you kind of want to run. There's Rooks, and then there's like another card that's like, when you reveal a trigger, you can Soul Blast 1 and get 5k, and that's like super low value. So yeah, you just don't have any grade 2s. This is literally your best grade 2, and I think Hexerob is kind of suffering a bit because you do have to run more grade 3s, which equate to slightly less defense. But I mean, the trade-off is you can kind of trigger better because you have more ways to check top deck to trigger. But overall, yes, you don't get to play the Angel. You just don't have great defense. So, overall, I think it's fine though. I think it's like a nice mid-tier deck. Japan, I've seen the opinions of this deck, and it's just they hate it. But I think it's an okay mid-tier deck. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying. Zolga. So when we first saw Zolga, we talked about this order. And when this order was first revealed, I remember everyone was like saying, wow, this basically makes the entire Soul Blast, you know, countercharge. This basically makes the entire deck work. But the reality is this card just is absolute garbage, all right? I cut it down to like 2 in my initial build. And every time I drew it, it was just a dead card, you know, sacking 2 cards to get the effect of counter charge and soul charge and draw 1. It's apparently just still really bad. You know, it's just not good enough. It's too low value. So I cut it from the deck completely, and it's just been working better. It's just working better. Now, the interesting order that really popped up was this one, right? Is the Soul Blast 2 check top 4. Or check top 4 and call 2 if you Alchemagicked it, or just call 1 if you didn't, and then put the rest in the bin. Now, this order is surprisingly cool because the cold stuff get plus 5k. So when you draw it early, when like the moment you hit grade 3 and you have this order, you can make a field, and then they have power, so you can start beating down your opponent. The weakness of Zolga is that you are like a 3-attack deck. You don't really get better than that. So overall, you kind of want to be aggressive as soon as possible, and you want to hit big as soon as possible to get that damage in. So at first I was only running 2 of this, but I really wanted to just hit this ASAPly. So I upped it to 3, and it's just been working better. It's just been working better. And you know, in one game, using it once, I always want to use it once. Sometimes I'll even use it twice. But if you do use it twice, you do have a chance of, you know, decking out if the game becomes slow, right? If your opponent heals like 2 times, if you hit an over trigger, etc., things like that. If you reach those situations, you do have a real chance of decking out. So you have to be a bit more careful. But, you know, definitely I always want to see it once, and I want to just as soon as possible. And I just want to, you know, pop this with the I think the spiritual condensation, whatever it is, the one that Soul Blast ones and I always want to see it with that, so I can pop my grade 2, make this free, and just have a big turn where everything hits big and I just got a free field, right? So this upping to 3, I think, is has made my Zolga deck better, and it's definitely made Zolga deck quite competitive, right? Like even if you mill your over trigger, you can just pop it back into your hand. Usually, just call it out, pop it back to your hand, and you know, use your Ghost Chase to pop it back, right? So I think a lot of the game plan of Zolga, it's not a totally simple deck to play, but you know, you have to just make sure you're calling the correct things back, you're planning a bit ahead to get those persona and make those big columns, things like that. So overall, Zolga has been surprisingly good, right? And then lastly, we have Orfist. This is everyone's favorite card, but unfortunately, it feels like it's performed as expected. You know, we expect it not to be amazing, and it's not amazing. It's just okay. Every time I play it, I feel like I'm just 1 turn short from winning. I'm just like that close to winning, but I'm not. So overall, yeah, it looks cool, but it's not too amazing. You have to be aggressive early. That's literally it, because you don't make up. You're a 3-attacker deck, and although you get big power, you don't have like you know, the extra oomph, right? The extra oomph. Like Zolga can easily make those power lines. They can make it without CB2, but Orfist kind of can't. So yeah, that's kind of it. So you have to really push early in order to kind of accelerate the game, but that doesn't really always pan out. So yeah, overall, kind of needs some work, but you know, it looks nice. It looks nice. So that's pretty much all the kind of discoveries. They're kind of simple. I think Brody is probably the best, right? Even though he's just like a counterblast 1 plus 5k shield, dude. Brody is amazing, and this order is amazing too. Now, there's also another thing. We have been tracking how many over triggers I've been, you know, well, not triggering, but how many times an overtrigger has determined the game. And mainly I've been playing with Mark to make the variables as consistent as possible. And so far the count is here. If you look above my head, so games played so far, it should just be so far, right? I do put this on for my stream, and we played like 37 games in 2 weekends. We don't really play during the week, and these are just games that I've kind of played with Mark. I've played with other people as well, but I don't really count them in. But the times we've overtriggered that actually decide the game is 12 times. So 12 out of 37, that's nearly a 1 in 3. It's about a 1 in 3. It's pretty close to that. That doesn't mean we don't trigger more overtriggers, but the times we've overtriggered and it didn't decide the game, then we didn't count it. But, you know, 1 in 3 games, the overtrigger will decide the game. And, you know, I haven't really talked much about the overtrigger debate because I think it's gone pretty south and pretty haywire. In my opinion, I'm not a fan of overtriggers. I think everyone knows that. But I just want to say that, you know, we shouldn't be fighting over who's correct, right? We shouldn't be fighting over, like, you know, overtriggers are the best or overtriggers are not, and just have to win the argument. Because I think that's what a lot of the argument has become now. Become like, I gotta win the argument. Casuals are just terrible, or competitive players are like, you know, this game wasn't competitive, blah, blah, blah. We need both sides in order to have a game. You need the casual side and you need the competitive side. If we don't have a casual players, you don't have a play base, and you don't have a big enough play base to buy the cards. But at the same time, if you don't have a competitive play base, right, the competitive side will make the game last a long time, while the casual side is the income, is the hype, right? So you need both sides to work, both sides need to be happy. And if one side dies, then the other side will naturally die after, right? I think like overtriggers are similar to like what? You know, tripping in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, terrible mechanic. Eventually Brawl died because, you know, of a lot of reasons. I don't know what to say. All right, I don't know. Yeah, keep it civil, right? Keep it civil. Don't hate. It's just a game in the end. Don't hate each other too much. But you know, it's not a great mechanic in my opinion. And that's just what I'm gonna say about it. So that's it from me. Let me know what you guys have discovered in the past 10 days or so, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.